Hello everyone, Trophy Wine Hunter, just chilling at the Empress Hotel, and you might hear some bagpipes in the background. It's just a nice day, and just sitting here looking at the Bordeaux 2021 release and giving you my thoughts. Let's talk a little bit about the 2021 vintage. You can take this vintage a number of ways. There was a lot of rain throughout the whole season, and I think a lot of people compared it to 2017, probably a little bit better than 2017. It can also be, it was the coolest vintage since 2014, and subsequently the alcohol content is down about 2%. And so that's a good and bad thing. I think for a lot of people who have got used to high alcohol Bordeaux in the last couple of years and have complained that it's a little bit too high, it's not Bordeaux-esque, this is a throwback type vintage. The alcohol content is back down to about 12.5% for most wines, so that's great. The yields are down quite a bit this year. I think it's down around 14% across the board in Bordeaux, but that's an average, and so most of it was affected the white wines and also the Sauternes. I'll go through my thoughts, but in general, my tasting, I found that I really enjoyed all the right bank wines. What we're looking for this year is going to be some value. For those people who are just getting into Bordeaux, probably not a great vintage for collecting for long term, but a great vintage for drinking. So what we're going to go through is kind of look for value in terms of drinking. So let's go through the book. I'm going to just highlight some of the wines that I think are, you can look at. The first, and I'll kind of refer to the numbers, and I'll try and put a link to the actual booklet in the comment section. So first, Chateau de Gueules, which is the number one on the list of wines in terms of in the booklet. I've always liked this wine. It's priced this year at $50, and that's the other thing. There's a lot of relatively inexpensive Bordeaux this year. So that's a very nice trend. The BC Liquor Board actually bought less wine this year, so there's not going to be a lot of it. But there are a lot of kind of more inexpensive wines this year, which is actually very good for drinkers. Chateau de Gueules, I've always liked this wine. It's from the Von Nieperg family, and it's 90 points Wine Spectator. It'll drink for another 5-8 years, but it can drink right away, and it's $50, so I like that. I'm going to pass this year on Alter Ego Palmer. I know I was big on it last year. I'm going to pass on Angelis just because of the pricing, and I'm even going to pass on things like Chateau d'Armagnac in Pauillac. I just think there are better years to have that, and so we're going to skip over some of these wines. The next wine I might take a look at is Chateau Belgrave, and in fact it's number 11 in the book, and it's it's actually from the Pauillac region, not from the Pomerol region. It's a small estate, and again, it's $90. It's not a growth, but I like it at that price. It's kind of a drink now type wine. I think I would take a chance on that wine. Another well-priced wine this year is number 26, Chateau Canon Lagafayère. I've never really understood why this wine has not got a lot of love compared to a lot of the other Saint-Emilion wines. It's a great winery. It's a Grand Cru vineyard. It's 92 points Wine Spectator, $180. Always drinks very well. It drinks quite well long-term also. Mostly a Merlot dominant wine, but I think that's got some value there. Next wine I like is number 31 is Le Carme Aubryon. Again, it's $260 a bottle, but Le Carme is always a wine that you want to kind of look at. And again, this might give you a little bit of early drinking for Le Carme. So $260 is a hefty price, but if you look at Le Carme as a wine, relatively, you might in the next couple of vintages might be more expensive. Next wine I'm looking at is number 43, Clos de Lauratoire from the Saint-Emilion region. Again, I like a lot of Saint-Emilion region and Margaux region wines that are under $100 that have fairly high ratings. I really like that as a drinking, not to collect, not to line your cellars, not to sell, but just for drinking pleasure. Because the nice thing about this vintage, it's going to drink early, and you know, you don't have to wait for it, which is kind of nice. It's a drinking vintage. It's 90 points Wine Spectator, and it's $90. I think it's a great price for that wine. I did taste a couple of the wines from Fronsac region. They're decent, but again, they're not really to my palate. So there are a couple that I would consider if you like that style, if you like Fronsac wines, which I find a little bit more hearty or rougher on the palate. 54 Chateau de Lame and 56 Chateau de la Dauphine. I tasted Chateau de la Dauphine. In my mind, it's a little bit rough on the palate, but it's 85% Merlot, 15% Cabernet Franc, and it's $50. So if you enjoy that type of style wine, then that might be something you consider. 66 Chateau Fougère from Saint-Emilion region. Again, really, it does drink well right away, but has aging potential. And with all of these, we're looking at 5 to 10 years where it's not going to really drink long term. It could, but it probably is. And the nice thing about this vintage, it's lower alcohol. It'll drink like a classic Bordelais, and you can drink most of these wines right away or within a couple of years. So Chateau Fougère is $90, and that's a nice place. Number 68, Chateau Ferrier from Margaux region. I'm high on this wine. I've done a review of this. I think it's under-known or underappreciated. I haven't tasted it, but in general, I liked all the Margaux wines in the 2021 vintage that I did taste. And Ferrier is at $100, so I think it's a good price. This wine is number 78, Chateau Gazan from the Pomerol region. I did taste this wine, I did like it, but I just don't like the price at $220 a bottle. But it is a very good wine from my perspective. So if you are a first-time buyer and you want to buy from Pomerol, that's not a bad choice. I also did taste Grand Puy Lacoste, which is really the better of the two Grand Puy vineyard sites. Again, it was good, but a lot of red fruit. I didn't think the intensity of the body is as high as I'd like, but it's a decent wine. I just don't like the price of it at $180. I think there's other vintages that you could buy of this wine. Next one is Baye. I also tasted this, number 89. Again, all of these good wines, just I don't like the price. On this one, it's $275. Number 96, Chateau d'Isane. I actually really like this wine, and I think it's right price for this. Of the wines of the tasting, I thought the Margaux region wines were the best. And my notes on this wine were, it's a very soft on the palate. It's very reminiscent of classic Margaux wines, Margaux region wines. Love the aroma on this. It's 65% Merlot and 35% Cabernet Franc, and priced at $150. I like it at that price. Next wine is number 120, Chateau Margaux. It's $1,500 a bottle. I know people are going to say that is how can that be a value? But all I can tell you is I tasted it at the media tasting. Hands down, everyone thought it was the best wine, and no one didn't like this wine. I think it's a very classic Margaux, Chateau Margaux vintage. Some people at the tasting compared it to 2004. It's definitely better than the 2017 Margaux. I think it could be really special. And so it could be a sleeper wine. Again, right now already it's wonderful, drinking beautifully, very aromatic, lots of violets, lots of dark fruit. There's a lot of integration of oak. So it's a very, very elegant wine at this point, even now. I think it'll drink well for another 10 years, but it's a great wine. You'll see me not talking a lot about the first growth or first growth equivalent. I just think this year, it's not the year to really purchase those. If you have the money, if you have the means, that's great. But for people like myself who have already a collection of wines, perhaps this is not the year to go after that. But again, it depends on what you are looking for. One wine that I do really like, which we did taste, was Petit Figeac. I've always liked this wine. It's number 139 in the booklet. And again, my notes on this, I actually really like this wine. I thought it tasted very right bank-like. Great kind of mid palate, lots of dark fruit, chocolate on the aftertaste, and it was really well balanced. That's what you look for in new wines, drinking very well. It's priced at $125, which is a quarter of the price of Figeac. And if you recall that in previous videos, what I said with most second wines, what you're looking for is at least a 3-to-1 ratio in terms of the price of the second wine to the first wine, and here it's 4-to-1, so I think it's a good value. Another, I think, relatively good value is Petrus. So Petrus is number 143 in the book. It's $3,900 a bottle. I have not had it, but Petrus makes great wines, and that is a good price. Even at auction, I don't think you could buy a new Petrus for that price. So if you have the means, that is a relatively decent price for it. Next wine is number 149, which is Chateau Pierre. It's from the Saint-Émilion region. Again, I don't know a lot about this wine, but I like the region and I like the price. It's $45 a bottle, which you're not going to get for many Bordeaux wines. It is a Grand Cru, Saint-Émilion Grand Cru wine. So although that doesn't mean a lot in Saint-Émilion, if you look at my videos on Saint-Émilion region, but you know, it's still a nice get, and so I would take a flyer on that wine. There's also 168, which is Chateau La Ville Coeur. I tasted the wine. I thought it was a pretty decent wine. Again, it's from the Fronsac region. That's not really my wheelhouse in terms of my palate, but it's the right price. It's $55. It's going to drink right away. It's a nice wine, and I think there is some value in there. With respect to the white wines, there's not a lot available this year, and so the only one that we tasted at the media tasting that I can kind of talk about knowledgeably is the Chateau Carbonneau, which I actually did like at $85. We tasted the Chateau Carbonneau with a 2020 white wine from Bordeaux, and the 2020 vintage is going to be a little bit heavier on the more intense fruit flavors, but the 21, if you can get the right price on it, I think it's a nice wine. This Chateau Carbonneau Blanc is always a quality wine. $85 is not bad. It does not have as much oak influence as we've seen in the past, so it's a lighter style, not as intense, but very drinkable and very lovely. The Sauternes, again, this year the Sauternes crop wasn't great, and also BC liquor stores didn't buy a lot of Sauternes, so the wines that you look at is there's only actually 4 that are available. We did taste the Chateau Sudera, and it is $175 for a full bottle. Likewise, I did taste the Doisy Dane. The half bottle is for $50. Both of them are decent wines. Stylistically, it's going to be a bit lighter in terms of style. Again, if you already have a lot of Sauternes, maybe this is not a vintage to buy. But if it's your first vintage and you haven't bought before, then perhaps these two are decent choices. Summary, again, what we're looking for is value here. I think other than a couple of wines that I have highlighted that are high-end wines, I would stay under $100. I would stay in the Margaux region and maybe the Saint-Émilion region, maybe a little bit Pomerol. So those are the regions that I would kind of suss out and try to look for. And then if there are certain wines that you like drinking and you can get them at a reasonable price, and reasonable I would say is under $150, I would take a flyer on them. There again, the nice thing this year is there are a lot of wines well under $100, and so you can take some chances here. But if you're going to take the chances, I would take them on the right bank side. I would take them from the Margaux region. That would be my recommendation. Hope you've enjoyed this video. Until next time, happy drinking.